Hey there. So recently I updated to a Mac Mini M1 processor system. It was a base model system which I got refurbished just to test out the new ARM-based processing and the new optimized Apple apps. So I was looking to kind of switch back to Mac because I'm looking to do several things more efficiently, and if I do a comparative analysis for my own work, Apple just comes out on top. In terms of ease of use and like managing my own IT stuff, it's great. So I recently switched over to this Mac and had to set up quite a few things and get familiar with quite a few things. So I just wanted to give you kind of an overview of what software I use and what software I had to set up on this new M1 Mac and how it's going. So mostly I work in Rhino 3D and Blender. So I was kind of wondering, how will Rhino perform, if at all, on the M1 processor? And it turns out that the time that I had bought this M1 Mac Mini, which was like 6 or 7 months deep into the first release, Rhino had patched their software enough that it works with the M1 Mac under Rosetta 2, so which means that it's emulated. What I found is that the performance is it's good enough, it's good enough to do my daily workload, and I haven't really run into too much trouble. In fact, it's actually been more stable than using the PC version as far as I have seen. And then the next thing is I installed Blender 2.93 beta, and that seems to work fine on M1 Mac. It actually is quite performant, and I have done several of my latest renders on this M1 Mac. And then onto the optimized stuff, I'm doing a little bit of scripting and development using Python, and I was looking for a very fast, quick text editor. I was learning Vim, but then I realized that I'm never going to get into that deep development and that kind of nerdy understanding of code. I just want to get quick things done. So I looked into it and I found that Sublime Text 4 is a really good editor for the M1 Mac because it works natively on M1 Silicon, and they just released Sublime Text 4 recently, and it's as far as I know, very snappy, very nice user experience. And I purchased the license that includes Sublime Merge. So rather than using Git Desktop, I'm using kind of an optimized software for the M1 Mac, and it works nicely with Sublime Text. So that's not really a major part of my workload, but I just wanted to mention that. And then in terms of backups, Time Machine is just untouchable in terms of ease of use and reliability. And then I decided to simplify the rest of my digital life by just giving into the Apple ecosystem and using iCloud, using Apple Notes, using reminders, using the calendar. They just work for me, they just function. And for me, within the film art department, a lot of people use Mac already, so it's easier to just kind of bounce back and forth using AirDrop and using iMessage and whatnot. So it's been great for me, great experience. Also, the M1 Mini is just so quiet and so power efficient. It doesn't really make any noise. It's quick to set up. I actually pack it up in my bag quite often, and I just keep a monitor at work. So rather than I could have picked up a laptop, but I just wanted to sample the M1, I didn't want to get into an expensive setup yet, because I'm sure in a few iterations the Apple Silicon based computers will just be totally crazy with a lot of graphics processing. So I'm really eagerly anticipating that. And then for this video I've used Final Cut Pro X, a little bit of motion, a little bit of compressor, and they all function perfectly, no crashes, nothing. And they just render the pre-roll footage so fast, it's unbelievable. I work off of an external SSD for my library, as this Mac Mini just has a small base model hard drive. I think it's 500 gigabytes, but it's not quite enough to do video on, you know what I mean? So what else? Yeah, and Photoshop functions perfectly. That's ready for native silicon, and I've noticed that it's actually working faster than my souped up PC that I built just a few years back. So I've fully transitioned with an iPhone and an iPad, and they all just work together so seamlessly. I don't really have to worry about that aspect of my life anymore. So if you're a working professional, creative, and you just want things to work, I do suggest Apple. That sounds like a cliche, but it really does just work. So I highly recommend it. So thanks for watching, and I will be giving more updates on what software I'm using, what experience I have. I will be giving some small tutorials. I'm no expert on a lot of these things, but I will be giving small tutorials on those subjects, and then we can see how I use scripting to do 3D, or how I set up Blender and what plugins I use. And I'll show you also some basic tutorials probably on modeling and texturing. So look forward to that, and I'll see you soon.